Welcome, Autobots and Decepticons. My name is Matthew Flynn, the Gladiator of Chaos, and today I am joined by Troy Pacelli, also known as Carton the Klingon Cleric, and Netta from Netta's Network. Welcome.
Good
Hey,
morning.
how you doing?
Yeah, so today we are now starting on the final show for Ben 10, that being Omniverse.
Yep.
It's Before we actually start talking about the episodes, I'm curious on your first impressions of this show.
My first impressions of this new show are not positive. I did not enjoy this. I really didn't. If I wasn't watching this because we were doing commentary on it, if I was like watching it for entertainment, I probably would have bowed out after a couple episodes.
Yeah, it's like the same here. It's like, okay, I see how they're doing the new chapter where Gwen and Kevin are going off to college. Well, she's going off to college. He's just going to, I guess, hang out with her. But yeah, what comes after it? Just no.
Yeah, it feels like even though I do see some callbacks to what's gone before it like we have in the past, I didn't feel comfortable with the way they were dealing with continuity and canon. um
And Ben was being more arrogant than ever.
yeah, his personality completely changed. I might be willing to suspend my disbelief and say, well, he feels a little abandoned, so he's going through a mood or whatever. But yeah, I I'll even say even the animation style has gotten very blocky and clunky. And but again, that's not something I would necessarily hold against the show. It's just I'm looking for things to be positive about, and I'm like, no, it seems like every aspect of it kind of took a big dive this season.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'm curious about,
Mm-hmm.
because I mentioned before about the show having like the US airing order and everything, and the show itself, basically Cartoon Network didn't treat this show properly when it started airing because they showed all episodes in all random order and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, from what I found, the US airing order for the first season is actually correct and is actually the chronological order,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of the other seven seasons of the show, they're the ones where the US or airing order is all muddled up, and the production order of the episodes apparently is inaccurate for the first season at least. And I didn't realize that until after watching the episodes in the production order, because there were minor things I noticed after watching it in this specific order.
Okay. Well, I might need your guidance on that then. But what I will say too is, having watched the first season, apparently in the order that it's intended, um, very difficult to follow because they do so much jumping around. You get a lot of flashbacks to his childhood, to periods that should have been during other, series. But like I said, I was telling you in the green room earlier on, I just felt like the continuity is off. He's doing flashbacks to things that don't make sense, don't feel like they would fit, using aliens that he didn't have access to at that time.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. It's like, we never seen that alien before. Where'd that one come from?
Yeah.
Wait, did you which order did you watch it in? Did you go by the US airing order or the production order?
Let's see. Original air date order. No, I take that back. It was production order.
Okay, so you what? Yeah, so yeah,
But the
that's
the only thing that throws off, if I'm reading this correctly, is that the uh, give me a second here. Uh, Hot stretch comes earlier than the other, you know the last 3 episodes. Other than that, everything should be in order.
Yeah, I think it's technically some of the minor details are
Yeah. But I
yeah,
mean, even within
that's
the
technically my fault with the whole with the whole order of the first season at least.
well, that's fine. Like I said, the bigger problem is even within one episode. You like the very first episode. There's no doubt about what's the first episode, right?
Yeah.
And you watch the first episode, and it immediately starts with a flashback. And this is a new show that we're going into, so I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is this show, now, leaving continuity and going back? Is this a prequel or something? And then I realized what it was doing is it's showing, events in his life leading up to this as foreshadowing for something else to establish something. And I'm like, okay, now I get it, because they're back to Kevin and Gwen leaving, which would be happening after the last series. I'm like, okay, so all the rest of that was flashback, but that was very jarring and confusing. But I'm like, okay, it's the first episode. We're establishing something. We're starting a new premise, so to speak. But then in subsequent episodes, we get a bunch of those same kind of flashbacks, and I'm like, okay, this is just hurting my head,
That's one of the reasons I opted to leave, like, because there are like some episodes where it's flashbacks, and then some episodes where it's an actual completely following 11-year-old Ben.
Yeah.
And I opted not to have those episodes, or not for us to watch those parts in like chronological order,
Mm-hmm.
because in this like show, the whole sometimes following 11-year-old Ben isn't it's like intimately connected with the story being told in this show.
Yeah.
If those stories were completely separate, then I probably might have included them as like in the chronological order rather than like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that it's because the episodes featuring 11-year-old Ben are important for the story being told, both here in this first season and the second season.
I kind of got that then,
Yeah.
because I mean, at least the first episode kind of makes that clear when you get into it, because they were literally following a villain that we hadn't seen before, that the story elements obviously were going to be needed for the current, in quotes, current timeline.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and what was it I was going to say? Yeah, with the episodes following 11-year-old Ben,
mm-hmm.
would you have preferred it if they like, or because 11-year-old Ben, or having 11-year-old Ben be part of the story, that was basically the gimmick this show went with to advertise itself, is that it's following both 16-year-old Ben and then other story, and then tying stories in with 11-year-old Ben.
Yeah,
And
I guess I didn't get that going into it.
Yeah.
And now that you say that, now that it actually solidifies in my consciousness, and I realize that was the shtick. I kind of get what your thumbnail was. Now that kind of makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you too. When I saw your thumbnail and I started thinking about this, and I thought in terms of what the name of this show is, Omniverse, I was like, oh crap, is this going to be like, we're not even following the same Ben? This is a Ben from another universe now or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be almost as bad, It's like, well, this isn't even the same Ben, that I've invested in all this time. I've got a...
Yeah.
I none of my assumptions about what his history and whatnot is valid, but I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
that's
'cause,
not the case, so.
Yeah. Yes, because I mean, the whole reason that Cartoon Network opted for this kind of gimmick of having the show feature like two different, or the same Ben at two different ages,
Uh-huh.
was simply to capitalize on the fact that most fans like the original series the best, and
I
the
see.
way Ben acts in the original
Sure.
series,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that kind of mentality has been creeping into the series over the past few shows I've been watching. Like with season 3 of Alien Force, Ben's personality goes back to what it was in the original series,
Yeah.
and they kind of fixed that with Ultimate Alien. And then obviously during that show, we briefly had a 10-year-old Ben from the original series be brought into the present
Yeah.
for that that episode.
Yeah.
And now that mentality has come full circle with we're actually following not actually 10-year-old Ben, but like the 11-year-old Ben a year later.
Yeah.
Or we're not following him all the time, but like he's a lot more involved in the story now, where we're actually
So
following episodes with
without
him.
without getting, without jumping too far ahead, realizing that that's what they were thinking, I kind of see then why they did a reboot to go back and because as you were saying that, I'm thinking, well, if that's the case, if that's what they wanted, then what they really needed to do was a story about Ben 10 when he was 10 years old, and just keep him perpetually 10 years old. You know, have there be no character progression and just have it episodic, where, one episode doesn't lead into the other one. You cannot do that and also have him get older, develop character development, character arcs for the other characters and so forth. The two are not compatible. But then, given that, at the same time, you've just split your audience, because you have one audience that wants him to stay perpetually 10 years old, and you have another audience that is now invested in, the characters growing up and their story arc and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like one of the things that I liked was seeing Ben go from this immature kid going, "Look, I got a new toy and I can do all these neat things," to being a little bit more responsible and more adult and mature. It's like, I don't want to see this little brat running around that can pretty much destroy the city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, and that's you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess is what I'm getting at. Although,
yeah,
I guess if you have an omniverse, you probably could, and I'm guessing, and you'll have to tell me if I'm onto something. The idea of a reboot universe is that it's a separate universe in a multiverse that's already been established. So, you know,
yeah. You are pointing in the right direction there.
yeah, I guess.
I
But
mean, that's the whole reason the reboot happened, is because this show was. I mean, it wasn't completely unpopular, but there were people who still watched the show to the end.
yeah,
But by this point and by multiple seasons into Omniverse, the audience watching had diminished quite a bit,
yeah,
until the point where the show just sort of. Actually, I don't even think Cartoon Network even aired the final episode. I think they might have put it online, I think.
I gotta say,
And
I guess I'm
yeah, and
not
by
surprised.
that point, then they were like, yeah, you know what? Let's just reboot this series now.
Yeah, I'm kind of not surprised, and like I said, I'll stick with it because we've committed to this. But the only thing that'll keep me going is just hoping to get the kernels of continuation of the story for the characters that we're invested in.
Yeah,
I did see, kind of looking ahead a little bit, I do see that Gwen and Kevin come back next season, and so does and this is the other thing. Grandpa Max, he's shown in like the first episode or so, and he's mentioned repeatedly, but he's never seen again. So apparently he comes back next season too.
Yeah, and I didn't like the way he was drawn. It's like he had really squinty eyes.
Yeah,
And it's like, what was with
squinty,
that?
like black eyes. I'm like, is he an alien or something?
Yeah, they're like half moon black eyes. It's like,
yeah,
they just didn't look right. The first time I
that
saw
would
it, I
be,
thought
yeah,
he was like squinting his eyes because he was mad,
yeah.
because it's a different facial expression. But he's like that all the time. Like, no.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
those are
I
my
feel like the
overall
whole character design
thoughts.
is probably more of a personal preference thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's my initial thoughts on the first season
Yeah.
overall. So
From what I have seen later on, there are some great moments later on, but obviously there are also parts near the middle of the show that I haven't seen at all, so I don't know much about.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, have you
so
not seen
shall.
this
Oh, yeah.
prior to now? Are you watching it along with us?
No, yeah, I'm watching it along. No, it's the fact that before we started doing this, I had watched the first two seasons and then like the final um two or the final like two seasons, I think it was. I also saw, or it might
Did
have just been
you
the last season.
did you feel kind of the same way? Like you were like, oh, this is not quite as good, or did you just kind of fall off and lose interest too?
Yeah, and also the fact that I do distinctly remember the episode the when the episodes were actually airing on TV. I do recall them not being too consistent in when they're aired. So every now and then I would end up
That
missing an
makes it
episode, and
very, very
eventually that kind of
difficult.
built up over time. I missed more and more episodes, and then eventually I was just like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna stop watching now because I'm missing whole chunks of story and whole parts of it at this point. It's
Yeah.
like Cartoon Network, just please have a consistent airing for once.
I totally feel your pain on that one. I know how that can be, even with a show that you really, really enjoy. I remember when Star Trek Deep Space Nine originally aired here in Chicago. The network that carried it was constantly interrupting the show because of sports ball. It was our local affiliate carrying the baseball game, and so every single week, they were being interrupted, and sometimes they would play Deep Space Nine on the weekends, instead, but
Yeah,
it was always late at night and at a different time all the time. And every now and again, the announcer would say, catch Deep Space Nine next week at its special time, da 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 da. And I'd be like, a special time would be the same time 2 weeks in a row.
yeah.
No, I know exactly what you mean. To this day, there's large chunks of Deep Space Nine that I haven't even watched yet, and I've got them all on DVD now.
Oh, I've marathoned through Deep Space Nine at least twice now.
Hmm.
I actually really enjoy Deep Space Nine. That's probably more to do with the fact that when I buy a DVD of something that I intend to watch, I just marathon all the way through.
Yeah, it's funny because people talk these days about binge watching a show like it's a brand new thing because of streaming, and I'm like, well, not really. Anyone who's ever owned VHS or DVDs of a whole series has done that.
Yeah, we just didn't call it bin watching then.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and of course the majority of the later half of the whole show, obviously being aired with the episodes being muddled all over the place, also kind of drove into me the whole desire not to really watch it, because
Yeah.
obviously like that wasn't even a case, that was like the actual airing on TV where the episodes were in the wrong order,
Yeah.
and it's very, very messy how the way they did that. So,
Yep.
are we going to go like with the episodes that we're going to talk about? Are we
Yep.
going
Let's
to
jump into them.
are we just going to go through the order that we watched them in, or are we going to go through like the chronological order?
Up to you. I mean, yeah, you tell me, and we'll jump to it.
Yeah, okay. We'll just go through the order that we watched them in, because that's what I've got in my
Okay.
notes. So what I got for my notes is the order that I watched them in.
Well, that makes sense.
But I will point out that the order we watched them technically isn't the correct and isn't the chronological order. But that's my fault. That's
Yeah.
nothing. That's don't blame the US airing order or like Cartoon Network for that. That's just me being an idiot with this.
Yeah. I
But season two onwards, then it is because of Cartoon Network goofing the
I was gonna say, don't
broadcast.
be too hard on yourself because you're making a good faith effort to smooth over a problem that they created. So
Yeah.
not to worry.
Yeah. So first episode, The More Things Change, Part 1 and Part 2. I'm assuming you watched this in like a
Oh yeah.
movie format with the two parts as one.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously, as you said before, episode starts with 11-year-old Ben fighting a villain that is basically new to this show,
Right.
which we will see more of. The villain is named Malware. We will
Right.
actually see more of him later through the season, and obviously later on we do get a little bit of backstory on him and why he's attacking. Well, actually, I don't know if they do explain why he's attacking Ben. I think at some point they do.
Yeah.
And
It's like I actually felt bad for him because it's like he was named just because he was different. So he was given this derogatory name of malware. It's like
yeah,
that's just wrong.
And so right off the bat, I was feeling very uneasy because we have a villain being inserted that we never saw before in an instance that we hadn't seen from 11-year-old Ben.
this
And
is the
he's
first
got a
time we're seeing
line that was,
11-year-old Ben.
pardon me?
This is the first time we're seeing 11-year-old Ben.
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah, because this
And
is the year after the summer Ben got the Omnitrix, which would be the original show.
you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think what I found really disconcerting is during his initial battle with malware, he says, you think you're the only galvanic mechamorph I've ever dealt with? I'm like, that doesn't sound like 11-year-old Ben. He it wasn't until later series that he started referring to aliens as their alien names when he started to find out things like, oh, this alien that I gave some weird personal name to actually is a race.
Yeah,
And-
like forearms, not really
Yeah.
forearms.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, the funny
Why
thing
didn't he
is
say
that
you're not the only upgrade that I haven't encountered?
Yeah, yeah. The funny thing is when Ben mentioned that Malware's not the only galvanic mechamorph that he's fought, that's actually referring to the Destroy All Aliens movie. Which I should probably explain this now. The Destroy All Aliens movie was actually made to be non-canon, and it's the Race Against Time movie that was made to be canon. And it's not until later on, after those things come out, that the shows itself kind of reversed that. So back in Ultimate Alien, the episode with Ben 10,000 when he comes back, that episode established the Race Against Time movie to be non-canon, and then this show actually established the Destroy All Aliens movie to be canon and in continuity. I probably should have explained that like before now, but I didn't realize that until like a while afterwards.
All right. Well, that's kind of a minor point because I mean, gosh, at this point, I almost have to assume it's all canon or it's all continuity until a specific thing says otherwise.
Yeah,
It's just yeah.
and also obviously we see Ben fighting Malware's forearms at the start, and then Malware like puts his hand on the Omnitrix symbol, and it causes Ben to randomly turn back to himself.
Yeah.
And although that moment actually does kind of come back later as a later plot point, but yeah, and Ben also he like then transforms into a new alien, which I can only assume it because this a new alien feedback. It's a good thing there's an image of him on the screen already. Yeah, the new alien feedback, who was obviously introduced in this show, but it's like 11-year-old Ben who's unlocked it. It's not that unusual for me to think that this alien, like Ben had this alien before, because obviously we're talking about 11-year-old Ben, which is after the original series.
True.
In fact, I'm pretty sure 11-year-old Ben would be after all of the like 10-year-old Ben related stuff that we watch. Like the movies following 10-year-old Ben.
Right.
and the Destroy Aliens movie and everything. Obviously, this 11-year-old Ben will be after that, so it's not too out of nowhere for me to think that Ben could unlock another alien at a later point, because this series hasn't really gone too in depth as to when exactly Ben takes the Omnitrix off and why.
True.
So it's not too out of nowhere for me to think that Ben would unlock another alien before removing the Omnitrix and then not putting it on for 5 years.
He's
And
also having he's also having the
yeah,
issue with no matter what alien he wants, he never gets that one.
Yeah,
And
we're back to that again.
it's like this running gag, but it's like, okay, the first time it's kind of funny. The second time it's still kind of funny. After that, it gets really old really fast.
yeah. I definitely felt that a lot more in the final two-parter of this season, but we're not we're not there yet. But one thing I will point out, when Ben turns into feedback here, now obviously I'm sure you noticed that multiple times when we saw 11-year-old Ben, he would turn into this alien,
Mm-hmm.
and that's well, it probably could be considered Cartoon Network trying to push like advertise the toy and everything.
Sure.
But given that I've seen a bit further ahead than this, I know there's actually more to it than that. There
That's
is a
fair.
reason Ben keeps 11-year-old Ben keeps turning into feedback,
And I
and
wouldn't
also a
be
reason why Ben doesn't have feedback currently.
sure. And I wouldn't be too it wouldn't bother me too much if they were trying to promote toys, because let's face it, I come from an era where, you know, everything was geared for, you know, selling toys, from Star Wars to GI Joe, He-Man, you know,
Yeah.
it's all about selling the toys. So I'm not
I
necessarily
mean, I'm pretty sure
having
that's
a
the
problem
reason
with
this
that.
show lasted so long, is because it had so many varied toys to sell.
Sure.
Because this show is the only of the four Ben 10 shows that we watched so far. This one is the only one that's lasted like 8 seasons. That's because of the toys being sold,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's also why the same company that made this show, they're called Man of Action, they made another show called Generator Rex, which technically or isn't is it both is and isn't in continuity with Ben 10. It's kind of a little complicated. It's
Sure.
an alternate universe, I think.
Sure.
But yeah, that show also had toys to sell with its show, but because that show didn't have that varied or unique toys to sell, they didn't really have much toys to sell to begin with. So
Sure.
that show only lasted like 3 seasons. So yeah, selling the toys is very important, as it's more than likely very apparent at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have yeah, and then obviously Ben defeats Malware with feedback. Obviously, this isn't like a final defeat. Obviously, this is the first time we're seeing this villain, so obviously he's going to appear later. Actually, here's a question. Would you feel any different about this if this episode didn't start with showing us 11-year-old Ben fighting a new villain?
I don't think that was my biggest problem with it in isolation. I mean, it kind of was, you know, as things went on, you know, it kind of established something that kind of bothered me. I think my bigger problem is what we're about to start talking about, is the shift in premise from the trio going around together to two of them going off and him being on his own and establishing completely new paradigms and forgetting about, you know, apparently forgetting about, you know, beloved characters, you know.
The other thing that bothered me is Azimuth had messed with things that he should not have ought. Uh, because he made this planet all pretty, he also created life forms, and then it was just kind of like, oh, there's life forms here. I think I'm gonna leave
Oh,
now.
wait, you're
Yeah, we're
you're
getting a bit
talking about a
ahead.
later
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about Trouble Helix. We're
Oh,
still
yeah.
on we're still on the season opening two-parter.
Sorry, after a while, some of these kind of run together for me.
Okay. Actually, we'll talk more about the whole when we get to Trouble Helix. We'll talk about it. I do like that episode though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, as you said, Gwen and Kevin leave. Ben's now, well, initially Ben's like, saying about like how he doesn't need partner, he can do like the superhero work by himself. And we get him like he wanders around trying to find food for a while. I do also like the little joke of zombie, like this Zombozo, who apparently is a zombie now. Don't know when that happened, but yeah, I did find it funny with the joke where he's like where he's like talking to Zombos, and then he like stops for a moment and goes, "Why am I talking to a zombie monster clown?"
Yeah.
The thing that got me is one of the marketplaces that he was at, there was lots of food around. You could see stalls of like fruits and things like that. But instead of going for one of those and just getting some fruit, he's being obsessed about these weird like tentacles on a stick and stuff. It's like, why?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's that's also one of the additions to the franchise that this show brought up is there's actually a town of aliens living under Bellwood.
Yep.
Now, I don't think the show directly mentions this, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of an after effect from Destroy All Aliens. Because remember, at the end of that movie, you had the two Waybigs fighting in the middle of a city.
Right.
And I don't know if the show actually gives an explanation for that, but apparently the reason we're meant to believe is that aliens like came to Earth and helped Bellwood rebuild the town and started living underneath the town and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if the show directly calls attention to that, but that's apparently the reason for Undertown's existence. Although it probably isn't that surprising there's aliens on Earth, given that there are multiple scenes throughout this first season where we just see aliens just above ground and interacting with other people, no problem.
Yeah. Throughout and I guess this is an artifact of how many series and how long the show's gone, but I do feel like they play kind of fast and loose and back and forth with, to what extent people know about aliens, to what extent people know about, the events in, Ben 10's life and plumbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of a thing the whole show overall has been, well not just Omniverse, but Alien Force and Ultimate Alien kind of played with in multiple ways. Although this franchise does have a history of, like I've said before, does have a history of making things a problem for the episode where they need to be a problem, and not having it be a consistent thing, like with Grandpa Max being old, but sometimes he's perfectly fine and can do just about anything anyone younger than him can do, and other times he is like visibly old or visibly acting his age sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you have other like minor things like that where either characters or objects act in a specific way that they don't normally act, but it has to be that way for the episode to work and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and oh yeah, we have also the plumber's base under Bellwood.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the same plumber's base from Race Against Time, but it is the same idea being brought back.
Right.
And of course, it's I like the fact that it's the plumber's base itself. The entrance is like a store, is a plumber shop run by Max. I do like that.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
And and also another detail, it is basically brought into focus as soon as we see 16-year-old Ben again, and that's he mistransforms. Well, obviously, yeah, like you said, he's gone back to the whole Ben mistransforming constantly. Now this time, I do kind of lean more into like your initial theory about it being like the Omnitrix itself being aware of
Yeah.
something like that, because this is a brand new Omnitrix. It's not broken. There's nothing wrong with it, but he's still mistransforming.
Right.
And in this like fight scene where Ben has turned into Lodestar, I have a very strong suspicion that that's not a case of he just randomly turned into the wrong alien or the one he didn't, or transform into one that he didn't want to turn into. It is kind of, it does kind of point to the fact that maybe the Omnitrix does have some kind of self-awareness, because even though he turned into Lodestar instead of I think it was Ralph was the alien he was going for, but
Hmm.
when he turned into this, when he ended up being this alien instead, he was actually able to like stop Zombozo and like stop him from stealing a brain.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings into focus the fact that even though he's mistransforming, he's technically turning into aliens that he actually needs at that particular moment, rather than the one he wants to choose.
Right.
And obviously that point's more apparent when you take into account that the Omnitrix isn't broken. It's brand new. He's only been using it for, my guess is probably a few days, even a few weeks, maybe. They never established how long after the end of Ultimate Alien this part is.
Yeah, I would say it's probably not more than a year, possibly a season, because it seems like we're getting to the end of a summer because Gwen is going off to college.
Yeah, and also Ben is the same age that he was in Ultimate Alien,
Right.
so it must have been within the same year that he got the finale of Ultimate Alien happened.
Yep.
I do also like the when Ben starts when he first starts trying to do things by himself. He then hears about like an alien protection racket going around
Right.
and tries investigating it by himself. And I like the fact that when he goes into Mr. Bowman's shit, no, Mr. Bowman's shop, like the the same guy from later in Ultimate Alien,
Yep.
the guy who was sheltering some was it blue aliens or was it green aliens? I don't remember.
But I think it was blue.
He was sheltering blue aliens from the Forever Knights. And as we can see, his actually, where's a better image of his store? Yeah, like basically his Mr. Bauman's store has all kind of aliens just sort of wandering about, buying stuff, sitting down, eating food, and everything.
And he even says it's like, "Oh, please leave. Every time you come in here, you wreck my
Yep.
store,"
Yeah, he does.
which
Yeah,
tells me that Ben is more of a menace than a help.
yeah. Well, probably an accidental menace.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, Ben goes in the store and like starts chatting to Mr. Bowman about like the alien protection racket, if he knows anything about this. And obviously Mr. Bowman's like trying to like ignore Ben and just get on with get on with his day and everything. And I do like the fact that Ben's method of trying to see if there is an alien protection racket coming to Mr. Bowen's store, he turns into Cannonball, but as a disguise rather than trying to fight, he's actually like turns into an alien as a method of disguising himself, which is a use for the Omnitrix that should be fairly obvious, but hasn't actually been used yet, or until this episode.
Yeah. Well, how often does he have to blend in with the other aliens?
It's not too often that he does. There have been a few moments where it probably would have made sense for him to turn into an alien while he's amongst aliens, like in the sequel of the Omnitrix movie, I'm pretty sure there was also a few moments in it was either season 3 of Alien Force or possibly early Ultimate Alien. There haven't been that many instances of Ben with Ben needing to turn into an alien as a method of disguise, but it is a use that should probably be fairly obvious. Okay. And we also get the when Ben's actually in the Mr. Bowman's store, and a group of aliens walks in with some kind of bomb, and they're obviously there to take money from Mr. Bowman, and I do like the fact that while Ben's trying to stop them, I did find it funny that one of the aliens who walked into the store was like this humanoid chicken alien.
Yeah,
And I did find that funny, and he was like
great
looking at the
gags there,
seeds.
yeah.
I did find that funny. Yeah, there's a very tiny image there.
And this is where you're meeting Ben's new partner for the first time.
Yep.
Yep.
Who's really
And-
efficient.
In fact, Grandpa Max was actually going to introduce Ben to his partner earlier in the episode, because but Ben ran off and started doing hero work by himself before Grandpa Max got the chance to do that. Because in this moment right here, Grandpa Max was actually about to inform Ben that he has a new partner and where to find him and everything, but Ben cut him off and ran off and tried to deal with the problem before Grandpa Max had the chance to even tell him.
Yeah, I think that's probably not a bad idea of a way to introduce the character. And I gotta say, the introduction of Rook is very, very clever and really builds some tension, because you have no idea who this guy is. He's sitting there, like as a patron, and you get the impression he's a real badass when he picks up a spoon and deflects a laser bolt back, And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, who is this, right? And so when he jumps in and starts helping out, and then he introduces himself, you're like, okay, well, this is cool. But then they kind of roll back all of the badassery, and you get you suddenly, very suddenly realize he's well trained and very skilled, but he has absolutely no wisdom and no experience. So he's, this by the book kind of character. I'm like, okay, so he's not a badass,
Yeah. I mean, Rook has his moments.
Yeah.
And we also have
More
the
efficient
fact
than
that Rook. Oh yeah, you were gonna say something?
He's more efficient than Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they definitely complement each other, because Rook has the training that Ben lacks. Ben has the experience that Rook lacks.
Yeah. And also, Rook doesn't understand Earth customs and was it like Earth sayings and stuff like that. Because there are moments where Ben will say something and Rook will think he's talking literally or something like that.
Right, and that's fine, and that's a common trope with alien situations like that. And once there's this paradigm shift and we realize, okay, so he's the less experienced character that wants to impress the boss, so to speak. Okay, I see where this is going. There's something good here. They even do a throwback gag where he's says, call me Ben, dude. Okay, Ben, dude. But they didn't keep it going as long as they did with what's his name?
Penn.
Ben Tennyson, yeah.
Oh yeah, Rhyme something. All I remember is Ben's nickname for him was like Rhymey. I don't remember his
Rhyme,
like
yeah.
actual full name.
And then there's the whole running gag with the badge. It's like, will you stop showing your badge?
Yeah. Yeah, well that's the wisdom part, right? It's the whole rookie cop, you know, in a buddy cop type thing, where the rookie goes in and expects that because I hold up my badge, everyone will do what I say. That's not how it works in the real world. You hold up your badge, everyone clams up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I
And
guess that's you know, I actually hit on a great description of what this show is. It's an alien buddy cop type show now.
yep, you're roboting a bit.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and we also have that Ben starts like when they're trying to defuse the bomb, uh, they take it outside of the Mr. Bowman's shop, and before Ben like throws it into like the other building, Rook first stops him and scans the building to make sure there's no one inside there.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously Ben throws it, it blows up the building, which I feel like would still be a problem even if there like obviously there's no people in there, but I feel like that would still be a problem, like a building randomly blowing up.
But the fact that Ben didn't check to make sure the building was empty first, that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
He was probably more concerned with it blowing up the people that he where he does know there are people.
Yeah.
I think that's what more was because they didn't make that obvious, but I think that's why Ben was like quickly to being so quick to get it out of Mr. Bowman's shop and throw it away because he was trying to get it away from the people where he knows there are people in there. But like the because he can't see through the walls, so he doesn't know if there's anyone in that building.
True.
I like at least one of them actually check to make like to actually visually confirm that there are no people in the building that are blowing up.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was really irresponsible of him to just go, I'm just going to throw it in this building without knowing if it was full of like school children or something, you know?
Yeah. Personally, I would have had like because he was turned into the new alien blocks, who was basically a Lego block alien. But like I would have probably had him like tower up above the buildings with the bomb so that it blows up in the air and nothing's damaged.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that would have been clever.
Yeah. Although we don't know if the bomb had any kind of radiation or any kind of effect like that it might have rained down if it did blow up in the air. I mean, the show didn't spend any time, much time whatsoever, like giving us any kind of explanation of what the bomb actually does, apart from blowing up. Yeah, and we also have an alien dog that transforms into big monsters that starts attacking Ben. Now, obviously, from Ben's point of view, he has no idea where it came from or why it's attacking him. But as us as the audience, we kind of get a little more light into what's going on there. Pretty sure that's a standard like writing trope of have like the giving the audience more information than the characters. Yeah, and we have Ben's like Ben ends up tracing the alien protection racket back to its source, where he finds that Siphon is the one running the operation, who's acting a lot more like a primary villain than he was the last time we saw him, where he was just being like a servant to Vilgax.
Probably got tired of being pushed around by Gilgax and said, I'm going off on my own. I quit.
Yeah, because the last time we had Siphon actually be like operate by himself wasn't really him trying to establish himself as like a villain in his own right, but was rather him just taking revenge on Ben for like the perceived destruction of Vilgax. But yeah, this is the first time we're actually seeing Siphon be actually trying to establish himself as his own villain. And of course we get after Ben defeats Siphon and his gang, and they're all put into the prison underneath in the plumber's base. We then get all get some set up for the rest of the season. Actually, we do get wait, before that we do get a moment where the alien dog thing attacks Ben while he's fighting Siphon, and Ben thinks that it's Siphon's pet, and obviously Siphon has no idea what he's talking about. So Ben is slowly, or very slowly, learning how things are how things are happening around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we get right at the end, we get the tease of the primary villain of the season, and that being Kyber the Huntsman. But I suppose you could consider like a Craven the Hunter type or situation, given that we've already established Ben as being kind of a Spider-Man type character. So I guess there's another character similar to a Spider-Man villain.
And this villain pulls no punches. At one point, he sends his dog after somebody. He goes something like "show no mercy" or something like that to the dog, meaning basically tear them apart. It's like, that's cold and dark.
Yeah, because we do get multiple times in like multiple of the episodes where he appears. We get a whole bunch of we get like hints about like that Kyber is definitely a more strategic and villain, because he doesn't like rush into stuff. He stays behind, hangs back in the shadows, and watches carefully and plans out his moves. Let's see if I can find an image of him. Okay, it appears this one's probably this is apparently the only image I'm able to find. I'm so glad Google is so helpful. Yeah, so here's an image of Kyber. Strange, he doesn't look like a spider.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean his name rhymes with spider as well.
That reminds me, that was another thing. Maybe it's an upcoming episode. I'm not sure, but Ben turns into Spider Monkey at one point, and I'm like, that does not look like Spider Monkey.
Oh yeah, that was like, during this episode.
Oh yeah.
I think it was the first time he encountered the Kyber's dog alien. Yeah, that would be a case of the art director for the show, Derek J. Wyatt. That would be him redesigning a majority of the characters and the alien transformations and everything, and also designing the new characters as well. It's actually kind of, I don't know if there was some kind of memo telling him to redesign only some of the characters, but not all of them. Because if you look at Lodestar here, he only looks slightly different from how he looked in Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. His design wasn't really changed too much. The only real difference I see is that he has this like little gold horn, or this brownish gold horn thing on his head.
In
fact, I think there are a few of Ben's aliens that have
I was just
virtually identical designs to previous appearances.
It's like, what's with the weird floating head?
What, for Lodestar?
Yeah, it's like his head just floats.
It's a magnet. Well, it's because he is a living magnet.
Oh yeah, good point.
Still kind of creepy.
Yeah. Next episode, A Jolt from the Past. Weirdly enough, this one actually is. This episode actually is the canonical next episode of the season. So for some reason, regardless of which way you're watching this show, this is the following episode after the opening two-parter. I do find that weird. Yep. So this episode has a return. Well, I don't know if you would say a returning character necessarily, but I suppose a returning alien from the original show that we've not seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, this season has a few characters or things from the original series that we've not seen since then.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that will be the case of the art director Derek J. Wyatt having the original series is being his like favorite of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So he's mostly drawing from that original show when it comes to character designs and influences on the character designs and what characters appear in the show. That's why this show has kind of a priority when it comes to specific alien transformations, like the original 10 from the original show,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the extra aliens from that show as well.
Yep.
Okay, I'll let you say what you think of this episode.
Well, wait. Let me grab my notes here. Hold on a second. I lost my place. So, I vaguely remember. I these aliens, these little battery guys. We've seen these guys before, right? In that town in Arizona.
Yes,
Okay. So
yes,
yeah,
it's the same aliens.
They're so cute.
They're like little gremlins, right? So you have that element of they're really really cute, but they're also really really
Destructive?
destructive. Yeah. So you don't want to see them all get killed, but you also don't want them to run amok. So I don't know. As a standalone episode, I'd say this was a pretty good one. I mean, this is one of those episodes where I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. But again, we have this use of an alien that I'm not familiar with, and it was introduced as a throwback or whatever you want to call it, flashback, and I'm like, yeah, never seen him before, but you're telling me he's been around for a while, so okay, I guess I just got to accept it.
Well, I'm assuming you're referring to Ben using or 11-year-old Ben using feedback in the
Exactly.
opening flashback thing. I mean, obviously it relates to the rest of the episode, kind of not too strongly because it's mostly just the fact that Ben fought the megawatts a second time when he was
Right.
younger. But I mean, it's not like when it comes to feedback, with them talking about feedback and Ben using him multiple times.
Yeah.
This is definitely a case where it's not too outlandish to think that Ben's used him before, because Ben has unlocked aliens off screen before.
Yeah.
In fact, multiple of his aliens we've seen so far have been like him unlock and start using off screen. I don't think there is like a moment where we actually see Ben like unlock feedback for the first time. I don't recall if there is like a scene like that. Obviously, it doesn't happen in the first season. But yeah, the fact that Ben kind of defaults to using feedback, like we see him as a different alien, and then when he turns back into himself, he then kind of defaults to using feedback.
Mm-hmm.
That is like a kind of a continuing side story that will continue to run through the season and also through the second season as well. In fact, I think there's even a moment where Gwen even like tells him like I think she says something to him about like constantly using feedback or kind of defaulting on using feedback when a different alien will be more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so obviously we'll through the season we will see feedback appearing, or Ben turning into 11-year-old Ben turning into feedback a few more times. This is just kind of to subtly set up a storyline that will happen in season 2. Yeah, so
So you can tell who the story person's favorite alien was.
Yeah.
Feedback. Let's see how much
I
effort
can't
they
blame
put
them.
in
I do
that.
like feedback. He is definitely one of my favorite of the new aliens. Has a cool design, has cool powers. Although that might just be because I like superpowers where it's absorbing and redirecting energy.
It's kind of a cool superpower.
Yeah. And he has the whole plug socket fingers, and I don't know if you would call them ears, but the things extend off his head, and also and a tail as well. Oh yeah, and we also have when we then return to 16-year-old Ben, we do have like a moment where Rook and Ben are in the truck that Rook drives around in. Rook does mention about the Plumbers Academy having. No, I think in the previous episode, Rook mentioned that the Plumbers Academy had a small amount of page dedicated to Ben. Although that was a funny joke because Ben's like excited to hear the plumbers are trained, or one of the training, or part of the training of the plumbers is them being taught about Ben, and he gets excited, and then Rook tells him, "Oh yeah, it's like a part of a page or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
and
would have said,
yeah,
yeah, it's a what not to do situation.
Right.
yeah, yeah, and also have Rook mentioning that there's like I don't know if he says something about myths, but he mentions about Alien X, or him like not really believing whether Alien X is a real alien that Ben can turn into. And I do like the fact that Ben says to him, he's like, "Yeah, Alien X is real," and then Rook's just like, he's like, "Really? You transform into him right now?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Let's got a whole thing going on with that."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, let's not say we did.
Although it is one of those tropes of TV where it's like, it's a very simple explanation. Just explain it. And this whole situation ends. But no, he doesn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, at least Rook, at least it's not like a thing that's like will have dire circumstances later on. It's more of a case of just Rook that doesn't have like physical proof that Alien X is a real alien.
Yeah.
At least that's an example of that trope in a more harmless way.
And then when Ben does actually save the universe by making a copy of it, they're like, you didn't really do that. We don't believe you. And then Ben's drinking his spoon and he goes, meh, it tastes different.
Yeah.
And the smoothie sign is different as well.
Yes, it was.
Although that's the next episode, not this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do also like that we early in the episode we get like a montage of Rook and Ben chasing down various or what appear to be alien criminals on the surface, but then when Ben actually stops them, they then actually realize that actually the aliens aren't actually criminals at all. like you have one alien who's running through the streets holding a purse, and they think he's like stolen it, and then it's like revealed that actually he wasn't stealing it, but rather had grabbed it from somewhere and actually returned it to the person who owned it. And then
Yeah,
because the person hasn't seen doesn't realize the person who's returned the purse to her is actually an alien, she turns and like screams and runs away. I think there was a few others. Yeah, I think there was one with an alien was like walking up to a smaller alien, and Ben and Rook like come in because they think it's something bad, and then it's actually a mother and its child.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw the alien with the purse, I was like, what does an alien need with somebody's purse? It's not like they need money.
Well, if they're on Earth, maybe.
Yeah, so but you're right. It's like every situation was actually an innocent situation, but he was making him out to be something really menacing.
Yeah, or it was more. I think it was more a case of like Ben and Rook were like assuming that that was the case until they actually caught up with the aliens, or because yeah, I think there was one situation where it technically was aliens being bad because there were a group of small aliens and they were eating pieces of cars,
Mm-hmm.
and Ben kind of poked his head out the window and I don't know, threatened to transform into an alien. I think it's because like the aliens know who he is or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was the intention that they were trying to get across with that.
That does seem to be implied, yeah.
And we also have that when Ben and Rook actually encounter the megawatts, um, and Ben starts chasing them, when he's like unable to properly catch up them because he's not the right alien who is kind of slow. He turns into clockwork and he's not really as fast. The megawatts, instead of running away, they kind of come back and or run back to Ben and kind of stand for a moment and kind of encourage Ben to continue following them.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben even like notes the fact that they're not really trying to get away from him. It's more like they're leading him somewhere. Yeah, and then we get they lead him right to a warehouse where like I don't know, I think it's a gang possibly. We only see like what 4 members, I think. Yeah, who are capturing the megawatts and using them as batteries.
I like how Ben sees it and goes, "They need our help. Good work, Lassie.
Yeah, exactly.
Timmy's in a well."
Yeah, and Ben turns into another new alien. Although obviously this is an instance where Ben actually is unlocking and discovering this alien for the first time in the episode itself. I do find it strange that multiple times throughout this season, when Ben turns into a new alien, one of the first things he would normally say is that he either doesn't know how the alien works or doesn't like know how to or what the alien's actual ability is.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like this Omnitrix should technically have the like with when the original prototype reformatted and it gave Ben when it kind of allowed Ben to have the natural instincts of the species he's turning into. I feel like this official Omnitrix should have that as a base feature also. So I'm assuming he's either Ben's just saying that to be dramatic, or he genuinely doesn't know how the aliens work when he turns into them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And the way he figures out how they work is like something will hit him and make a part of him react, and it's like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah. Although I do like Gravitak's powers because he's like gravity-based powers.
Yeah, that one is interesting.
Yeah, I do. I do also like the when Actually, I don't even remember the guy's name. The guy with the face paint and the mohawk. I don't remember his name.
Oh yeah, I
In
know who
fact,
you're
I
talking
don't think he even was given, and I don't think he was even named in the episode. Where's an image of him? Okay. I don't. Oh wait, here's. Yeah, I don't know if that image is any clearer. Yeah, we have this dude.
Right.
Oh wait, there's a. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I don't think his name was ever mentioned in the episode. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about this episode. I mean, I like the fact that at the end, when the megawatts are saved, they then like offer to be like the power source for Undertown.
Yeah, that was
I would
cool.
imagine they would be in a probably a more freeing situation, or more of a free situation than what they were in while captured.
Mm.
Maybe they can just maybe now as Undertown's power source, maybe they can roam free or something, or maybe just have more space to move around. And I'm not sure what Undertown will actually do in terms of like applying them as like a power source.
Well, they seemed happy.
Yeah.
It was like
Uh,
there was an episode of Doctor Who like that where a ship had a alien being as its energy source, but they were hurting it, and the doctor realized that they were just causing it pain unnecessarily. Once they removed the pain, the alien being was happy to take them wherever they wanted to go. They just
Yeah.
needed to stop hurting it.
Yeah.
yeah. Wait, is that like more recent Doctor Who, or was that older Doctor
That
Who?
was it was an older one. It was
It was a
Matt Smith era. Um, it was a some sort of a space whale that had a city on its back, and everybody in the city was made to forget, and ignore the circumstance because they couldn't live with it or whatever. And when the doctor shows up, he's got to deal with the situation.
Okay. I might not have seen that episode. I haven't watched all of Matt Smith's run as the Doctor.
That's fair.
Okay, next episode. So long, and thanks for all the smoothies.
Yeah.
We're, ironically enough, this episode is technically the most important episode not only of the season but of the show overall. Because yeah, this episode introduces a couple elements that will come back later. Yeah, so this episode, it starts with a random alien ship appearing above Earth's atmosphere, or in orbit of Earth, and it's shooting what look like escape pods down. Although I don't think they necessarily are. And yeah, Rook and Ben then fly up to the ship to investigate, and it's at this point that they start encountering like some familiar faces, like Arjir and like Arjir and the Riedel brothers, and then a little bit later, Emperor Milius from the of the incursions show up, and obviously there's more going on here, like Vriedel brothers are trying to scavenge the ship to see to get some weapons and see what else they can find.
And you find that they're no
Arjit is
longer
here for a
cloners.
specific reason that he doesn't tell at first. He kind of keeps that to himself. And of course, Emperor Milius comes in and just starts shooting at the unknown alien ship. And yeah, this episode, one of the elements that it brings into the series that will be a lot more important later on is that this ship is part of I believe they're an alien species that is long extinct, and they're I believe they meant I don't think they specifically said this, but I think they're well, they say multi-dimensional aliens. But I think they're specifically the aliens in question here are fifth dimensional aliens. Yeah, and yeah, the aliens called the Contumalia, and of course the whole part of the episode that's probably more relevant for what's going on in this episode is that Arjit has taken a or a weapon of mass destruction called the Annihilarg that Arjit is intended or was supposed to retrieve and then sell to Emperor Milius, and obviously they're different characters like turn on each other and everything. I do like the fact that Ben doesn't let Arjit out of his sight, because at this point he probably understands what kind the way Arjit acts in situations like this. And we have the Contumalia, the Mysterious Ship, the Annihilar. All of those will come back later on in the show itself. And the other thing that's also just as important for later on in the show is when everyone's back on Earth and they're all fighting over the Annihilar, and it falls on the floor and then activates. And I do like the fact that this actual moment where the Annihilar activates and it starts destroying the universe. I do like that there's a very minor amount of jokes during that scene. They don't really play this moment for comedy that much. Well, I think they make some small jokes during this scene, but for the most part, this scene isn't played for comedy, which I do like. And we have, as you mentioned before, Ben, or as Alien X, or he doesn't stop the universe from blowing up, but rather recreates the universe as it's being destroyed. We also do get an appearance by an older alien, Grey Matter. He also Ben turns into that alien again.
Yeah.
And obviously it's played as the joke of whole Ben wanting a different alien and then turning into a smaller alien, or just an alien he didn't necessarily intend. Well, this is another example of Ben turning into an alien he didn't choose, but it still ended up working out regardless. Because while he was Grey Matter, he was able to crawl up onto the ceiling and pull one of the wires down and freeze the Vriedel brothers and stop them from shooting at them. So that is another instance of Ben mistransforming, but where it kind of worked out for him. Do you have much to say about this episode?
No, I really don't.
Well,
This would be one of those episodes that I would say I did appreciate the callbacks. the touching of old threads, but it was kind of meh to me, you know.
What was
Yeah,
interesting is the Grill brothers are no longer plumbers. It's like, what the heck happened there? I thought they were turning their lives around.
Right.
yeah, they didn't directly like address why they're no longer plumbers, but they did kind of make a reference to the fact that like it's in their nature to blow stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also Rook really doesn't like the Riedel brothers. I believe it was because they messed up something on the plumbers academy, which
They blew
resulted in
something
Rook
up,
having to
yeah.
like I don't know, I think it was finish exams on an asteroid or something like that.
Yeah, see,
And of
I
course, they
think
do
they said
mention
they
that they
blew up the.
blew up the plumbers academy as well.
Right, so that's why he had to do his final exams on that asteroid planet. He was not happy.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the whole Ben recreating the universe as it's exploding. That's the other thing in this episode that is very important for later in the show. From what I remember, I don't remember which season, but I know a later season will actually directly call back to this, and it will actually be very important for like one of the later seasons. Yeah, and we also have the joke of both Rook and Arjit not believing Ben when he says that he recreated the universe because it was like too late to save it.
Yeah.
And I do find the funny of like Rook. He's like you recreated everything. He's like yes, everything. He's like in the universe. He's like I think he's like disbelieving that Ben would actually be able to like know everything, how everything else in the universe was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did have the help of the other two aliens, and that were made up the
Oh yeah, the
trio.
Bellicus and Serena. Yeah, the other two parts of the Alien X personality.
And this basic idea, this basic storyline, very much reminded me of Doctor Who. Also, the whole uh, uh, panopticon destruction destroys the universe. He's got to, you know, he's got to reboot the whole of history and everything.
Yeah, I mean the Ben 10 wiki does directly mention that this is plot similar to a Doctor Who episode.
Yep.
I think the wiki does actually specifically mention which episode, but I don't remember. I don't quite remember where exactly it was. Oh yeah, and also this is the moment where Rook actually sees Alien X, and like actually is shown proof that Ben can actually turn into this alien. That is kind of ironic that one of the most important episodes of the show is one where we don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next episode, it was them. I did really enjoy this episode. And of course, obviously the title was a reference to a 50s monster movie. Because and it isn't just a case of the title is referencing a movie, but it's also kind of in the episode as well. Well, the title itself is thematically
Oh,
appropriate.
the mutant ants of them. Yeah.
Yep, it's referring to the movie Them. I don't remember when exactly that movie came out, but I know it was a 50s movie.
Yeah. Those were not very realistic practical effects back then.
But the hokiness is what made it good watching.
I'm just looking it up real quick. Them was 1954.
Ah, okay.
That's well before
Yeah,
my
I see.
time.
Once again, Google was being incredibly, incredibly useful.
Ah, right.
So good that I have a whole 2 images to work with here. Let's see if I can. Oh, yeah, okay. Make that a whole 3 images to work with.
Right.
Let's see if I can find any more images. No video. All I'm seeing is images from video games, other episodes a lot later down the line, some fan art, some random images of other episodes again, and cover art for some of the DVDs that were released. Yeah, I don't understand why there are so few images of the episode that I've typed in, because surely surely like multiple people should have been able to capture images from the episodes and then upload them to Google. I mean, one of the programs that I use on my computer to watch DVDs has a record and a snapshot feature. Well, granted, I didn't know about it before, but I did discover that very recently. So, I mean, I can pretty much guarantee that I would probably be able to take multiple screenshots from a single episode and then upload them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, why Google doesn't have that many images, I have no idea.
I recently discovered I can do that on YouTube videos. If I'm at a part that I want to take a picture of something, there's actually an option to do that. I haven't seen it on all videos, but I've seen it on a couple that I've watched. It's like, okay, that's kind of a neat feature.
Yeah. Because that's the thing that confuses me. Like, surely the with the DVDs available and with it also being available online, surely there should be a whole bunch of images available for us to like search up on Google. Given that it's like probably majority of the people in both America and here in the UK, and I suppose a few other like European countries most likely have access to the DVDs and online methods of viewing these episodes. Yeah, so I like that in this episode when because at the start of the episode Ben is attacked by the alien mutant dog, Kyber's mutant alien dog thing again. Obviously, at this point, he still doesn't know who it belongs to. In fact, he doesn't even, at this point, he doesn't even know that it's the same animal transforming because he never sees the monster turn back to its normal form. All he sees is the specific alien the transformation that it turns into, and then it gets away before transforming back. So at this point, Ben's just under the assumption that it's like multiple different alien monsters attacking him. And he comes to probably one of the and a conclusion that makes the most sense when you take into account the rest of the series, and that's Ben assumes that this alien monster that's attacking him was created by Dr. Animo.
Right.
Obviously, we find out that's not the case, but it's a pretty fair conclusion to come to, given the circumstances.
Which, of course, leads them to looking for Animo and realizing they had to deal with him. Completely unrelated to what they were otherwise doing.
Yeah.
Which confused
And
the
oh
heck
yeah,
out of Dr. Animo because he's like, how do you even know he's planning something?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I think he was like stopping. I don't know what he said specifically. I know he mentioned something about like dealing with Ben was like phase 2 of his plan.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't going to get to you till phase 2, but as long as you're here.
And we also get Dr. Animo very clearly likes the sound of his own voice.
Yes.
Because there are moments where he's talking to very clearly to himself. I think the voice actor Dwight Schultz probably just had a lot of fun voicing this character.
Oh, yeah.
I also like that we do get some moments of Rook being like very like intuitive in his like thinking, because when they approach the giant anthill that Dr. Animo is hiding in, before they actually enter the place, Rook picks up some of the like slime or whatever it is on the floor and like covers himself and Ben in it so that the ants will recognize them as part of the hive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
not attack them.
yeah, and yeah, and we also get yeah. So I like that that moment of actually I think there's a few moments where Rook's kind of like is really like proving his worth. Like when he I think an earlier point is when he mentions that I think he mentions about like some kind of like an alien book author wrote something about Earth about ants being the dominant life form,
Right.
and Ben's like, where'd you get that from? And he's like ants are the most like have the largest population of the planet. There's, there's like he like mentions like some alien book author theorizes that the ants are the dominant life form because they're the majority of the population, or they have the largest amount of population on the planet. Which is I do like that. It's like a nice way of showing that the aliens, or another way of like showing how how different aliens view the Earth.
Yeah.
Because some of them might look at Earth and assume that the highest population means that they're the dominant life form on the planet. Yeah, and yeah, and we also have while Ben's actually dealing with Dr. Animo, that's when Kaiba's alien dog then jumps in and starts attacking Ben. I also like the fact that that their method of defeating the alien dog this time was actually tied into was actually related to the Dr. Animo plot of the episode. So it's like it's technically two different plots going on at the same time, but they actually kind of converged near the end. So it's like they initially went after Animo because Ben thought he was the one sending the mutant dog after him, which resulted in him finding Dr. Animo on a completely different plan that he had, and they stopped Animo's plan and also defeat the alien dog at the same time. So like Ben takes away Dr. Animo's helmet where he's using to control the ants. So then the ants because they're just like assuming anything that's not them and doesn't smell like them is an enemy. So the ants start attacking the mutant dog. I do like the way they did that.
Yeah.
And as you'll know, the Kaiba's dog turns into a different alien when Ben turns into a different alien.
You know what? I hadn't even caught that, but you're right.
Yeah, it happens multiple times. Early on, it's more of transforming, like, not necessarily in the shadows, but kind of only turns back to a dog or to a different form when it's not seen. So Ben at first assumes it's multiple different alien monsters attacking him, but at a certain point, then the Kaiba's dog then starts turning into a different alien as more of kind of a response to Ben turning into a different alien.
Yeah.
which obviously will be more important at the end of the season. Because obviously they'll explain. Obviously, it will all be explained near the end. And also the Kaiba's dog actually changes form when Kaiba like whistles. Although he's not using like his mouth to whistle, he's using like these like slits on the side of his chin, or the side. Well, I mean the side of his lower jaw, I think. Is that everything for this episode?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Don't really have too much to say about this one outside of some of the enjoyable moments and the and obviously the more season length story elements that are included. Okay, now we're at Trouble Helix.
Right.
So yeah, this one is this one's the one that basically, well, I would say entirely focuses in on 11-year-old Ben, but we do get kind of these like framing scenes at the beginning and end of the episode showing like 16-year-old Ben for a brief moment. So this one's not quite a case of just suddenly following the younger version of Ben, but we're kind of it's framed by Kaiba breaking into the plumber's base and basically doing research on, or doing like some research on Ben and gathering information.
Right. The overall story here being that we're going to get the, if I'm remembering this correctly, this is the origin of malware, right?
Yep, this episode shows malware's origin, and
In fact, it shows the origin of all of the galvanic mechamorphs.
oh yeah, it does. Yeah, because when we actually see 11-year-old Ben, obviously it's they've Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa Max have traveled to Galvin Prime, and obviously Grandpa Max is there because he wants Azimuth to deal with a problem with like the Omnitrix, where Ben has just been stuck as a I don't know if it's like a specific alien, like in the original series where he was stuck as grey matter for an extended period of time. But Grandpa Max does specifically mention that Ben's been a different alien, like constantly for a while now. So I'm assuming what's happening is he's probably turning from stuck in alien form, but turning from one alien to another. I'm assuming is what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, Asthma. I do find it funny that when Asmus like because he's dealing with something else at that moment in time, and Grandpa Max is like I made an appointment. I made 10 appointments. He's like, will you just fix what's wrong with the Omnitrix? And of course you also have Albedo before he becomes a copy of Ben.
Right. Yeah, that was an interesting. That's another one of those interesting throwbacks that I kind of liked. This also answers kind of a question. The name Galvanic Mechamorphs. What's the connection to the Galvans? It now is clear, you know?
Yep. Azimuth was doing like a planet-wide experiment on Galvin Prime's moon, or Galvin B, and the experiment then caused the planet to morph into an appearance more resembling the galvanic mechamorphs themselves, and then obviously the mechamorphs themselves then kind of formed out of the ground. and Azimuth even points out that obviously the mechamorphs themselves being created wasn't like it isn't like the intention of that experiment.
Mm-hmm.
But he does then also say that like the planet wasn't theirs to colonize, so he just gave the planet to the mechamorphs and let them basically live here and be in charge of this specific planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
And
the
of
one where
course
I'm
the
like, you
yeah
know, he created these life forms accidentally, but he was still messing with things he shouldn't have been messing with. And as a result, something went wrong. And he just kind of noped it right out of there and didn't want to deal with it. And now he's being forced to deal with it.
yeah because like he's I don't know what he was doing exactly, but the double helix that was there in the Galvin in the mechamorph in like the main building of the on the mechamorph on Galvin B, and that malware kind of, I don't know, oozed out of it or whatever it is he did exactly. Obviously, he's living metal,
Yeah.
or would it be liquid metal? I suppose you could consider him like a Terminator type thing, or a T-1000 more specifically. Yeah, and he kind of oozes out of the double helix because he's obviously, and he's a mechamorph whose life code has been interrupted while he was being created, so he's ended up being corrupted,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, in fact, I'm pretty sure the mechamorph species like coming into existence must have happened well, like hundreds, if not thousands, of years before Azimuth even made the Omnitrix,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously galvanic mechamorphs is one of the DNA that was put into the Omnitrix originally, and that was only done because he constructed Primus to be like a data bank for all the DNA that then was connected to the Omnitrix. So I'm going to assume that the experiment where he accidentally created the mechamorphs must have happened like at least 100, if not 1,000 years before it currently, or before the current point in time. Because I know before Azimuth does mention that he created Primus, I think thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also the malware himself, because he was accidentally created around the same time as all the other mechamorphs. That must mean he's been like waiting for Azimuth to fix him and like repair him or whatever it is whatever's specifically wrong with him. He
Mm-hmm.
must have been like waiting for a very long time for Azimuth to actually do this. Although Azimuth does mention in the episode that he has been spending a lot of his time trying to help malware, but he has other responsibilities to deal with at the same time, and also malware's condition is a lot more complex than it initially seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's like a very standard trope. It's like to have a character be like very impatient for another character to do something, and the other character, well, and the character like assumes the other character isn't actually doing it, but in reality they actually are trying to help. It's just it takes time, or it's just like what they're trying to do takes time,
Mm-hmm.
and they have other things to do at the same time.
Like that
Pretty sure I've seen that
episode.
sort of thing happen with other shows as well.
I'm thinking about that episode where Gwen was being accused of not trying to help Kevin when that's all she was working on and she
Right.
hadn't found anything yet. But they just presumed she wasn't doing anything to try and turn him back into human.
Yeah, that's probably the most immediate reference we could probably make to. I'm pretty sure other shows have used a similar story format as well. I can't quite put my finger on any other particular show that has done this before, but obviously, yeah, the Alien Force episode is probably the most obvious comparison to make. And we also have Azimuth even explains that Malware himself is he's not like other than him being like corrupted and also him being like a yellowish kind of color. Instead of being green, he's like yellow, and he looks very like thin and decrepit looking. And yeah, and he's like Azimuth even mentions that aside from the obvious problems, he also has or the obvious uniqueness that he also has the ability to absorb technology into himself and have it like upgrade him. Because at the very beginning of the episode, when Malware crash lands on Galvin Prime, he's stopped by like a random Galvin security guard, and he like absorbs the technology from, or the jetpack from him. Yeah, and of course, there's another instance of Ben, or 11-year-old Ben, using feedback again. Yeah, and what is it? Yeah, we also have Malware himself actually break into the lab where Azimuth is. I would assume trying to find a problem for Malware's condition is probably what Azimuth was working on before Grandpa Max came in, and then basically dumped his problem that was with Ben onto Azimuth. I do really enjoy this episode. I'd also like Malware as a villain as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of a Frankensteinish sort of tragic villain too.
Yeah. Would that be referring to Malware as he is when for most of the episode, or later on when he turns red?
I would actually have to say kind of both. I mean, he was created by Azimuth, kind of left in a very unfortunate circumstance and abandoned, and becomes destructive and evil. But you're kind of going, well, I kind of understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reason I mentioned about like the later on when he turns red is because obviously after he's taken the double helix that Azimuth was working on, and also then takes Albedo as well, and he takes them back here to this he takes them to this thing,
Yeah,
to then basically allow him to then basically cure himself of his condition. After he actually is cured, and he then turns into this red form. Obviously, the form we see him in at the start of the show, and also some of the other flashbacks, we see him in this like red form. And in this like moment when he's in this like when he's emerged as like this red version of himself, he kind of has a mentality that he is the like superior to all the other mechamorphs. Because there's a moment where he's fighting Ben, and Malware even mentioned or questions like where Azimuth is while this is all happening, and Ben even says to him like he's right outside helping all the other mechamorphs that you've hurt, and Malware even like snaps for a moment, and like kind of, I suppose you can consider it an inferiority complex kind of moment, where he like snaps at Ben for or like snaps at him, and like at the mention of Azimuth helping all the other mechamorphs instead of him,
Yeah.
and even like I said, with this moment where our malware comes out and he's red, he even like views himself as superior to all the other mechamorphs, and he even views them as being, well, while he views them as being inferior, he even views them as being worthy of just like being just killed off instead of helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be one of the reasons why I asked whether or not you'd consider him to still be a Frankenstein's type monster,
Yeah,
like
I
even
can see
after he's
that.
like
Sure.
come back as, or emerged cured in his like red form, where he like views himself as superior to all the others.
Yeah.
I mean, he even grabs Grandpa Max's laser gun or whatever type of gun that is. He even grabs that from Grandpa Max and then absorbs it into himself and turns his arm into a laser cannon.
Right.
Which I'm surprised the Ben 10 wiki didn't mention whatsoever that this kind of malware here kind of has similarities to Shockwave from Transformers, because he's a living mechanical being. He has one eye on his head, so he's a Cyclops, just like Shockwave. He has the one arm that he turns into a laser cannon, just like how Shockwave has like one arm that's a laser cannon and one arm that's normal. And of course, probably another very like similarity is that malware is voiced by Corey Burton, who is the original voice actor for Shockwave from the G1 cartoon.
Oh.
Cool.
And also, Corey Burton actually voiced Shockwave a second time in Transformers Animated, which was supervised by the same animation art director as this show. Yeah, this show actually has a couple of references to Transformers, or specifically Transformers Animated, because it's the same guy doing the art style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Ben 10 wiki never mentions that whatsoever. I suppose the only difference is malware is like very emotional and very like volatile, while Shockwave is emotionless,
True.
or is very emotionless and logical. I think that's the only difference between the two. Oh yeah, and aside from malware is red and black, and Shockwave is mostly purple.
And one last thing I did want to say about this is it's another example of Azimuth being bumbling in his brilliance, and maybe a little lacking in responsibility for the rather grandiose things he sometimes does.
Yeah,
Bit of arrogance there.
A bit.
and more so with Albedo.
Yeah, true.
Although I suppose Albedo doesn't have the because like obviously Azimuth can sometimes come off as arrogant, but there have been moments where Azimuth has like realized where he's caused the problem or something like that, and he's actually like tried to make amends for that. Well, Albedo doesn't have that at all. He's just mostly just arrogant. Because there's even a moment while he's trying to repair while after malware had kidnapped him, and he's like got Albedo trying to repair the double, or properly put the double helix into the machine so that it does what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Even while he's doing that, he's like making all kinds of offhanded comments to malware about like how much smarter he is, and I think he even mentions like how because he's like the second smartest person on the planet, that like it was smart of malware to take him and that sort of thing. Which of course
Yeah.
malware doesn't appreciate Albedo like talking like that.
Right.
And of course, we have Ben using Diamond Head to defeat malware.
In a very clever way, kind of seal him up.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Albedo was taunting him on purpose, like trying to get him mad so that he would make a mistake or something, or he was actually just being arrogant. I am smarter than you, da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know.
I would go with
I think it was the
arrogant
latter.
because that kind of matches how we've seen Albedo's personality in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Next episode, Hot Stretch.
Yep. Why don't you give a summary on that real quick while I pop away to the little boy's room? I'll be right back.
You gonna
Okay.
get to live.
Yes.
I'm going toodaloo. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay, of course Google's gonna auto fill in what I type. It's very annoying when Google does that. Yeah, so this episode features, I guess you could call them Eskimos, kind of. I mean, that is kind of the vibe I get from these aliens. Although instead of living in a cold environment, it's kind of a reverse. Like they look like Eskimos, but it's a reverse where they can't stand being in like colder environments, and they need to be in like very, very warm environments. And you have basically these guys have. Well, the episode starts with Ben chasing down this character to like stop her from running away with some kind of like power source. I don't know what they specifically. I think it was like a. It wasn't a fusion reactor. It was some kind of reactor core or an energy source of some kind, where she's then bringing it back to the cave where the rest of her people are, so that they can then use that to heat up the rest of the cave area where they live, so that they can actually live in there in relative comfort. But obviously, this results in them or their leader actually wanting to not only heat up the area they live in, but also heat up the rest of Undertown and the surface and the rest of the surface of Bellwood itself, so that they can actually
with that.
Yeah.
so they can actually like live on this planet like as if it's their planet. Also, this episode does feature moments where I'm definitely sure people died, but they just didn't show any people.
Right.
Because you see like lava spewing out of the ground and covering the roads, and you even see a few cars get covered in lava. You see a few parked cars get covered in lava, but you definitely see like cars that are driving around that would definitely have people in them, and I'm pretty sure they were surrounded by lava. In fact, I think one or two of them even were covered in lava, and there's no way anyone would survive that.
And that's what happens.
I mean, there's even one building that like lava pours out of, and then the building itself collapses. Yes, it's very hard to like explain away how anyone would survive like on the surface while this episode is happening.
They just didn't want to go into too much detail.
Yeah, they wanted to elevate these guys as a threat, but like not really go too in depth as to who's being hurt or like the extent of the damage being done. I did notice that this character introduced, there was kind of a Spider-Man Black Cat kind of dynamic between these two.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because it's like this character is like she's stealing, but she's also like kind of not necessarily fully bad, good or bad. She's kind of in like a moral gray area, like right in the middle, similar to how Black Cat is usually depicted as being not fully good or bad, but somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh, and there's also a cameo by Optimus Prime in the one of the parked vehicles. I wonder if I'll be able to find the image. I think this is going to be another instance of Google being very helpful. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's totally not Optimus Prime right there.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to say about this. It's more like the fact that this character named Esther, obviously you have at the start where she thinks she's helping out her people by retrieving the I think I would assume radioactive material in order to power their machines and heat up their home. Obviously, is the case of where she assumes that's all they're going to be doing is heating up their home. She isn't aware that their leader is then going to go ahead and actually cause the area outside of their home and also on the surface to start heating up and very, very clearly hurt people, but obviously not actually show anyone be hurt because it's a kid's show.
Well, they always have to have the innocent person going, "Oh, sure, I'll get that for you," not realizing it's going to cause mass destruction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and Esther even like turns against, or I think she takes a bit of convincing from Ben to actually like go against her people and stop them from doing this.
Yeah.
And we also get the fact that Esther actually does like Ben, because there are moments where I think she even prefers him in his human form as well. Because there are moments when Ben's turned into an alien and she's like disappointed that he's like still in an alien form. And I mean, even Rook like is like aware of what's going on there, but Ben is for some reason kind of not as observant about that.
And in instances like this, I keep looking at going, "So where's Julie?"
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen her in
Yeah.
forever.
That's another good point.
So are they broken up? Are they not broken up? What's going on there?
I think there's a season 2 episode where Julie comes back. I think it's a season 2 episode.
Okay.
For all I know, it could have been a season 3 episode played in the wrong order, but yeah. No, yeah, it might have been a season 2 episode. Yeah, and I also do enjoy some of the moments with Rook in this episode, because he's like Ben tells him to cause a distraction, so he runs out, gets their attention, and he's like now we're gonna play. He's like can I have your attention please? He's like now we're going to play now we're going to learn an Earth game called Tag, and he goes up to the guy and pokes him on the chest and goes, "You are it," and then he starts running away.
Mm-hmm.
I did find that funny.
It's okay, you know. He was making a distraction.
Yeah.
Of course, he has to presume that everyone wants to play the game.
Yeah, but it does keep their attention. And I like that Rook even attempts to keep up the act, even though even though in the very hot environment he's slowly sweating and is like losing his energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course the Esther even mentioned, or Ben even no, I don't know, it's not Ben. It's Rook even questions how Esther is able to move around on the surface with no problem, and she explains that she's only half of what was it, whatever species these guys are. I don't remember what the name was, but she mentioned she's only half of their species, I would assume the other half of her is human, I'm guessing.
So it's
I mean,
kind of
based on the
like
fact that she looks relatively human, I would
all the
assume.
plumber's helpers.
Wait, can you say that again?
He says kind of like the plumber's helpers, and of course I'm thinking, going, so if they're not plumbers, are they plungers?
Yeah, I suppose so. Although I am making an assumption with like her being half human, maybe she's half a different alien species that's humanoid or relatively human looking. I don't think there's ever a moment where they like confirm what the other species that she is.
I think the fact that they don't kind of implies that it's human until you have reason to believe otherwise.
Yeah, because because here's what I would imagine is probably a full-blooded member of the species. I would assume all the others are full-blooded members, and she's possibly the only half. Well, I don't know if you would say half-breed or or like crossbreed maybe. Yeah, yeah, that's what like a full-blooded looks like,
Look at those
and
eyebrows.
yeah, and hers are like a lot smaller. I mean, for the most part, she looks. I think if like her eyebrows were covered, she probably would just pass for human.
Seems to be some. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I get kind of a vibe of Raven and Trigon from the Teen Titans.
Yeah, that might have been the case. I think of the voice actor like voicing this character might have been like on the Teen Titans
Oh,
show,
okay.
maybe. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Teen Titans cartoon is animated by the art style for that show is this from the same guy who made this show, or the same guy who worked on this show, I should say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Jarrett Day White who did the art style for, or did the character designs for Teen Titans. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I have not. I'm currently looking at the. I currently have the Ben 10 wiki for this episode open in a separate tab. Doesn't say anything about her being designed to. Well, specifically for the episode, there's no mention of her being designed to resemble like a Teen Titans character. Let's see. The voice actor who voices Esther has, as far as I can see, isn't from the Teen Titans cartoon. But ironically enough, she is actually in real life married to the voice actor who voices Ben.
Huh.
Oh, she also voiced Jennifer Nocturne from Ultimate Alien.
Neat.
Yeah, and also there was one moment that I noticed, other than the Optimus Prime reference. I also noticed that when Ben and Esther are like playing with the like accelerate kids, I think the species is Kineceleran. Yeah, those like when they're playing a game with those in the street, and Ben turns into accelerate. He even says it's on like Computron, which I took as a reference to Transformers also, because there is an Autobot called Computron, who's because he's a combined team, because he's like a combined, or the combined form of a team called the Technobots. Although weirdly enough, the Ben 10 wiki doesn't mention that as being what that's referencing to. Apparently that quote is apparently referencing the 1981 game Donkey Kong. Apparently, I have no idea since I've not played that game, so I don't know if that's in any way relevant to that.
Well, what they're saying is the phrase, because the original phrase or the commonly used phrase is on like Donkey Kong.
Ah, okay.
I did not know that.
Yep, it's on like Donkey Kong.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, so yeah, that's about all I have for this episode. Wait, have you said everything that you wanted to say about this episode?
Yep.
Okay. Next episode, have I got a deal for you? I'm curious what you think of this episode.
The Return of the Skregit. Skregit? Whatever.
Yeah, Skriga, I think that's the name.
Yeah.
Wait, did that thing appear in a previous episode or a previous show? I don't remember this thing appearing before.
Or maybe this was the appearance of it. This is the cute little guy that gets turned into a giant monster, right?
Oh wait, you're referring. I think you're thinking of the Fool's Gold episode from season 3 of Alien Force.
The one where the cute little thing was giving elixir to the
charlatan.
The charlatan, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this will, grow your hair, and it on his cohort it grew hair with flowers in it.
Yeah, I think the previous episode you're probably thinking of, Troy, is probably the one with the little aliens who don't eat meat and they only eat popcorn. And if they eat meat, they turn into a giant monster.
No, this was when they were going around the alien city or whatever, and there was a snake oil salesman selling a product, trying to get Ben to be a spokesman for it.
And then the hippie alien was trying to get the little dude that he was using to get the elixir from freed.
Right.
Oh, I wasn't referring to this episode. I meant as in like the episode that you were saying about the Skregit returning.
Oh, that is this episode. Okay, I'm sorry, I got confused.
The Skregit is, like, as far as I'm aware, like this from this episode, not from a previous episode.
Gotcha.
Like I say, after a while, some of these kind of run together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was double remembering this episode. Yeah.
Okay. Is this an episode where you would rather forget, or is it more of one you don't mind?
Actually, I would say this was one of the better episodes of the season. And maybe it's just because I really like the character, I don't know if you call it a character, but the creature, the Skregit or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Skregit.
Skregit, yeah.
I would have thought the hippie wildvine would have been like a deal breaker for you.
No, in fact, if anything, you could kind of key into some of the less than subtle, cultural commentaries here, kind of lighthearted way of looking at these archetypes of characters that we really have to deal with in life, and kind of mocking that whole mentality of the single-minded absolutism of crusaders.
Yeah, because I enjoyed this episode. I like the fact that obviously the guy's a hippie who's like obsessed with like freeing the Skregit from well, what he assumes is captivity. We don't actually know if the Screeger actually isn't there, isn't like perfectly fine there.
And I'll be
'Cause he,
honest with you, every single indication we got was he totally didn't mind the situation he was in. You know, I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like, look, you need to back off of, unless someone comes to you asking for help, leave them alone.
yeah,
Yeah, 'cause the other thing is too. It's like you don't know anything about this little alien. You don't know if it's dangerous if it's outside this little containment unit. You don't know if it's okay to be outside this little containment unit. Don't touch something you don't know anything about.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
It's
because
like
the
taking a
yeah,
bomb and going, "What does this do?"
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because the hippie Wildvine, I know they said his name a few times, but I just prefer to call him Hippie Wildvine because that's what he looks like. Yeah, and there is a moment where he is aware that the Screeget will react like this if it's in, I think he says, a nitrogen atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and he even like isn't even aware that Earth here has like nitrogen in the air, and like obviously like I'm pretty sure there are like multiple different things here on this planet that let out nitrogen. Well, not nitrogen,
Right.
carbon dioxide. I mean, yeah. But I know obviously everyone would like, or an alien would probably focus more on the fact that there's oxygen in the air, but obviously there's carbon dioxide in the air because there are multiple methods here where carbon dioxide is let out into the air.
Right.
So the fact that this guy wasn't aware of that Earth, and even says to him, he's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" He's like, "Oh yeah," like that comes up in normal conversation. He's like, "Hi, my name's Ben. I live in a carbon dioxide rich environment. What about you?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an example of a hippie activist not doing their research.
Yeah. Which we see a lot of these days.
Yeah, because when they initially break into whatever the guy's name is that owns this place, the guy who was trying to get Ben as the spokesman, when they actually break into his place where the Screeger is being kept, Ben is even like saying to him, "Yeah, we really shouldn't be in here or doing this." He's like, "Yeah, so don't touch anything."
Yeah, because basically they're breaking and entering. That's illegal.
Yeah. I'm sure there's
Better.
a lot of shows where a character like like the hippie Wildvine here, where he would probably be viewed as doing the right thing and being like a good person, or viewed as a good person by a specific show or a different show. I mean, there's even a part at the end where the plumbers they arrest him and like take him away, and he's like just saying stuff. He's like yeah, lock me up. So I can feel what my fellow brethren have had to endure. Yeah,
And he's still yelling to free the Screeget. It's like,
yeah. He kept shouting that multiple times.
it's like, dude, you just saw how destructive it was.
Yeah, and also when the guy who actually owns this place, when he actually comes back to find them in here, he's like pointing a weapon at them, and he like falls over and accidentally blows this guy, or the upper half of this guy up,
Oh
and he kind of
yeah,
just like
the hippie dude.
reforms himself, similar to Swamp Fire, which I'm pretty sure is an ability that the wild vines actually have, but we've never actually seen.
It was kind of like, you just murdered that dude.
Right. And this is, this goes to what you were saying about, referring to him as like a hippie wild vine. I guess you're supposed to assume that his species is like a plant-based creature or something like that.
Yeah, because he's the same species that Ben was able to turn into. In the original series,
Right, right, right.
the
So,
second season, Wildvine.
So this
Yeah,
kind of begs the question when he implies the whole idea of being vegetarian, right? You don't eat meat, you shouldn't eat other sentient creatures and stuff like that.
yeah.
But dude, you're a plant. What the hell do you eat? You
Actually, I'm
know?
pretty sure there are some plants that do eat meat.
Exactly, there are.
Yeah,
And
like Venus flytraps.
and really, if you think about it, what do plants eat? Plants basically take nutrients from the ground, which literally is the biomatter from dead plants and animals.
Yeah,
So I maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but I did feel like it was the writers kind of picking at the whole, well, if you're going to be a vegan, guess what? You're still killing something, even though it's not an animal. Maybe you shouldn't do that either.
yeah. Oh yeah, this episode also does have a brief reappearance from Sunder. Although for some reason he has a more electronic and robotic voice for some reason, which I find weird because he never had before.
Eh, I mean, you could always just assume he's using some sort of an electronic device he didn't have before.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, his design has also been changed a little bit.
I also felt like when the Screejit or whatever it's called uh, grows into the monster creature, which is your typical, like Godzilla type trope, the rampaging monster in the city.
Yeah,
He has this look to him like a comical version of like a Lovecraftian creature.
or like this image here.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get shades of like Dagon or something like that. I mean, Dagon from Lovecraft, not Dagon from Ben 10.
Yeah. Actually, I don't...
Or I guess in Ben 10 they pronounce it Dagon.
Yeah. Still not sure why they pronounce it differently.
Maybe to make a little bit of a differentiation.
It can't be a case of Americans pronouncing a foreign word differently, because Lovecraft was an American writer.
Yeah, that's true. But in fairness, he was a writer. So we only have the written word, we don't have the pronunciation. I actually think that the popular popularly accepted pronunciation for the Lovecraftian Dagon comes from the movie Dagon, which actually was filmed in Spain. So I think that's where the pronunciation comes from. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a deep dive on that sometime. And I'm getting way off topic here, but
Yeah. If
interesting.
I'm not mistaken, that movie isn't even an adaptation of the book of the same name.
Not really. It's
It's,
more it's more based on Shadow over Innsmouth, but it's kind of a blending of the two.
yeah, because that movie, Stegon himself appears in that movie, even though
Yep.
I don't think he appears in the
No,
book.
no, he doesn't. Not in
Yeah.
not in Shadow over Innsmouth. Like I said, it does seem to kind of blend the two stories together and completely supplant where it takes place. Whereas, as you point out, the Lovecraftian stories take place in the United States, specifically in and around the Eastern Seaboard, which is where the fictitious towns of Innsmouth and Miskatonic and whatnot are supposed to be. This moves it out to Spain for, filmmaking reasons. So,
Yeah. Oh, and to quickly throw another layer in here, there is also an Egyptian god named Dagon, which might have been the basis for the Lovecraftian god. Now I think about it.
Absolutely. Specifically, the Mesopotamian incarnation of it. Although they look somewhat different. I mean, the Mesopotamian god was like your typical mer creature, human on top, fish on the bottom.
Yeah,
Whereas Dagon is meant to be this, well, looking like the Screegiot type thing here.
yeah, having more of a. Most of the art that I've seen has more of a, or kind of goes with the mermaid idea, but instead of being like completely human upwards and then fish below, it goes more for a more of an actual like fusion of human and fish, or more of like a werefish, I suppose you would call it.
Yeah, almost like the creature from the Shape of
Creature from the
Water,
Black
except,
Lagoon, is that what you're thinking of?
pardon me.
Do you mean Creature from the Black Lagoon? Is that
Well,
the?
yeah, I mean same archetype. I was going to say Shape of Water, but basically they're the same type of creature, but
Wait, isn't Shape
far
of
more
Water?
fish-like.
Yeah, isn't Shape of Water kind of a loose adaptation
It
of
was because
Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Del Toro wanted to do a remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon and was denied. So he's like, okay, I'll make my own version of it.
Ah, I suppose the different pronunciation for the name could also come from the fact that the name or the specific god itself has been moved from one culture to another and one language to another.
True, absolutely. You see this a lot with the Greek and Roman translation of the same characters.
Yeah, like Hercules, who was originally named Heracles.
Heracles, and that makes perfect sense, right? Because he took the name Heracles to honor Hera, his, I suppose you would say, stepmother.
I believe Hercules is the Romanized version of the name, I
Yep.
think.
Yes, it is.
And now that we're finished with that tangent,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay. And now for the, I suppose we could say final episode, the closing two-part of the season of Predators and Prey, parts 1 and 2.
Yep. And obviously that's how we watched them too, because we were kind of binging.
Yeah.
So we finally have the encounter, or the, whatever you call it, the standoff or whatever, between the
Yep.
big bad who's been, lurking throughout the season, and Ben.
Yeah, who's been hunting and studying Ben. Yeah, and this is also the first time that Kyber is actually like facing Ben himself and actually like stepping out of the shadows, as it were. And of course, during this two-part is where we get the explanation of how his alien dog is changing from one form to another, and also getting a little bit more explanation on some of the other things as well. So we have right at the start of the episode when Ben is fighting Kyber's mutant dog, and he turns into Wildmutt. And when Kyber uses his whistle to call his pet back, because of Wildmutt's sense of hearing, Wildmutt then also hears the whistle as well, and this kind of, I suppose, unintentionally pushes Ben closer towards discovering what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if I would imagine if he wasn't Wildmutt, then he wouldn't have heard the whistle and probably wouldn't have got an idea in what direction to go to try and discover what's going on.
Exactly. It was kind of like the aha moment of, wait, what's this?
Yeah. And so Ben starts, or both Ben and Rook start going around trying to trying to find where exactly the well, I think at first Ben's like he's just like just the monster's going to attack me anyway, so may as well just let it come right to me, and then we'll like know what to do with it. And Rooks goes with the idea of actually trying to be a little more proactive about it and actually try and track down like where it's coming from, who's sending it, and that sort of thing. And then Ben and Rook go back to Grandpa Max. I've forgotten why exactly they went to Grandpa Max, but I know they visit Grandpa Max, and then Ben steals Rook's idea and says about trying to actually be more proactive and try and hunt down where this creature's coming from. And Ben and Rook they get into an argument and split ways, and they even or kind of leave, or Ben kind of just goes off by himself, and then obviously Kyber and his dog then attack. Then I also like the fact that Ben and Rook like getting into an argument and splitting apart was like them actually planning that out and trying to like catch Kyber off guard.
Yeah.
Although I do find it funny that because Rook was like tracking him, he's like Ben was under the impression that Rook was like pretending to get into an argument with Ben to then split, and then Rook's like no, I meant what I said. He's like I do like that they do actually like pretend to split, but like technically the argument was an actual argument.
Yeah.
And of course, Ben gets arrogant. It's like, your plan won't succeed.
Right.
And it's like, yeah sure, you know.
Yeah, and we have and then when or after they've already split, and Ben like fights off the Kyber's dog, he's then captured by Kyber and taken back to his ship. And it's at this point that Ben then stalls for time by getting Kyber to start talking. And basically Kyber then explains most of what's been going on. And back in the like with 11-year-old Ben, in the very opening of the season, when 11-year-old Ben was fighting malware, and he like put his hand on the Omnitrix, that actually left this episode reveals that actually left an Omnitrix symbol mark on malware's hand, and it kind of acts as like a blueprint with which
incredibly unlikely, but
yeah. Although that episode, both times that we were showing that flashback, we weren't necessarily it wasn't necessarily explained what malware did when he put his hand on the Omnitrix while Ben was forearms. Because all we saw is it kind of created like a light, and then it caused Ben to turn back to himself.
Yeah. And from a certain point of view, you could almost see it as an allusion to Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Who gets the staff of Rawhead burned into his hand and uses it to reconstruct one.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't have the whole thing, so it kind of messed him up.
Exactly.
Yeah. That might have been the intention somewhat, although I'm not sure if they actually were intending that, or if that's just like, you know, a complete coincidence. But yeah, Kyber reveals that malware is the one that is one of the people he's been working with to get rid I believe get rid of Ben. I'm not sure what. Obviously, you have like more than just Kyber involved in this, because you have Kyber. He's been hired as a hunter to hunt Ben and retrieve the Omnitrix. and you have Malware, who not completely sure what he wants. I would assume he just wants to absorb the Omnitrix and its technology, probably. And then you have a third character named Dr. Psychobos, who has been employed by Malware to help him like develop a kind of Omnitrix knockoff thing. Except instead of doing what Albedo did and making a direct copy, they've instead created a different kind of knockoff that they've called the Nematrix,
Yep.
which contains the DNA of a whole bunch of like feral animals, and they attempted to test this like Nematrix by kidnapping Phil from the Null Void and putting it on him, and then having him be the one who uses it. But because of his higher brain functions and the feral transformations, it doesn't quite work out. So what they end up doing instead is putting the Nematrix on Kaiba's dog here, because because Kaiba reasons that with the dog having like a feral mind itself, it would be compatible with the kind of more feral transformations, which does make sense. There is like kind of a logic to that.
Yeah.
And you also have that Malware, Dr. Psychobos, and Kaiba have technically been planning this for like 11 years, or would it be 10 years? No, not 10 years. No, yeah, 5 years. Don't know where I got like 11 or 10 from, but yeah, I think it was like 5 years they've been spending planning this.
I mean, it definitely projects this idea of and I love this in a villain. This is why I love Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars. Yeah, this idea of somebody who is very calculating, very thoughtful, takes his time, is in no hurry, because he values intelligence. Now I find it a little bit harder to be able to ascribe that quality to what's he called, to Malware or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, Malware.
Yeah, because he is very reactionary, or at least that's how he's shown himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't listen, doesn't.
Yeah, because he's definitely smart, but he's not like a incredible like genius or anything.
Right.
He's definitely not the one being like the master planner of like all of these events.
And especially you saw in the previous episode with his not previous episode, but the earlier talking about his origin, it shows him interacting with Azimuth. No, I want it now. When anyone with any kind of reasonable intelligence would be like, okay, you got to do what you got to do. You can't, rush something that hasn't happened yet or whatever.
Yeah, I would definitely ascribe the overall plan that they've been going for. I would definitely ascribe it more to probably a group plan or a group plan rather than one specific character coming up with all of the ideas for this.
Yeah.
And we also get a Star Trek reference in this episode as well.
True.
With the I don't know, something neurogrip they say, or the Kaiba says, because he pinches like Ben on like the not the shoulder, not quite the shoulder, but like near the neck there. Obviously referencing the Vulcan nerve pinch.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you
and we
also
also
have
see the
Ben
yeah
using the line, "Let's make like a tree and get out of here." Which is a Back to the Future reference.
yeah. And we also have probably the one that was like that I immediately noticed was both Ben, who had turned into Raph, while he was fighting Kyber, they were like referencing Looney Tunes because it was like Raph season, Kyber season, Raph season, Kyber season.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that. That's probably because I did watch a lot of the older like what was it? Is it 60s or is it earlier than that when the Looney Tunes
I want to
cartoons were
say
made?
70s, but maybe that's just because that's when I watched them.
Yeah, and it was somewhere around like the
Yeah,
possibly
the old
60s.
days. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but I obviously didn't watch them then because I'm not that old. But I did have VHS, multiple VHSs for like a whole bunch of those old Looney Tunes episodes. So I'd watch them a lot. So yeah, I did kind of remember those kind of some of the gags from those cartoons. Yeah. There's also one thing. There's also a couple of more Transformers animated references that I saw in like this scene when they're both on Kyber's ship. Because in the background you can see Grimlock's sword from Transformers animated. Oh, actually, here's one directly pointing at it. Yeah, you have Grimlock's sword from Transformers animated right there on
Yeah.
right there behind.
Oh, yeah.
And you also there was also where is it? Yeah, there is also in the background a hook or a hook arm thing, which I'm pretty sure is also a Transformers animated reference. Because there was a bounty hunter in that show called Lockdown who had a hook for an arm. In fact, the character of Lockdown was actually created for Transformers animated. Oh yeah, there it is. If you can see this right here. Yeah, and yeah, so we also get as I said before, we also get Phil from the original series, or who we haven't seen since the original series.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and oh yeah, they do also explain that that Kyber himself has hunted every single species that is then the DNA is then taken from to make the Nematrix. I'm not sure how long that he spent doing that, but I would imagine Dr. Psychobos and Malware hired Kyber obviously to hunt Ben specifically, but they must have hired him also to hunt the specific DNA to put into the Nematrix as well. Do you have anything else to say about this episode?
No.
Oh, you're very quiet.
Sorry about that.
Actually, now I just remembered. I do like that. The Rook actually like figures out that Kyber is, because he's using a whistle um to help him control his dog, and when it transforms, Rook actually does figure out that Kyber doesn't actually have like a specific whistle that he would use, but rather he has the like the slits on the side of his lower jaw that it kind of act as a whistle, and he kind of Rook figures that out and manages to get this like goo stuff. It was like this like sticky goo stuff like on around Kyber's mouth so that he can't whistle, which then allows Ben to then actually defeat the his dog.
Oh yeah.
I do like that bit of teamwork from Ben and Rook.
It's like I like Rook a lot. It's like he's got all the really cool gadgets. He knows how to use them. And in a lot of instances, he's far smarter than Ben in looking at scenarios and going, wait, before you do this, we should try this.
Yeah.
You know, where Ben will just blunder in head on without thinking through the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I would say the training versus the experience, And I have kind of felt this whole season that it kind of shifted to a different paradigm where Ben has been so used to being the big hero, saving the universe, saving the world all the time. And now he's being relegated, or he feels like he's being relegated to the trainer, the Obi-Wan, training the next generation of hero.
Yeah.
Which, if I were him, I'd be honored by that. It's like, you think that much of me that I can train somebody else to do this?
Well,
That's awesome.
But at the same time, I think he's seeing it as, but I don't want to give up being the hero myself.
But he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
It'll be like Batman having Robin. He's still the superhero, but he's
Yeah.
got a sidekick to help him
true.
out. He's training him,
Yeah.
so if he ever has to step down and give up his mantle as Batman, he could turn over to Robin. No one would know because it would be seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm seeing it.
Although in this instance, Ben is a celebrity superhero.
True.
Well, true.
They haven't really gone really much into that.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that they've brought back up, threads that they've touched on again, but others they've completely ignored to the point of absurdity. It's like, seriously? There's no acknowledgement of this rather important element of his life. The fact that he's got a public identity,
Although I feel like that probably wasn't completely on Omniverse doing that, because even in Ultimate Alien, the series that introduced him as being like a famous celebrity superhero, even with that show, they didn't really go into that too much. They just sort of they did bring it up every now and then, but for the most part, it's not as noticeable. Oh yeah, I also noticed that in the background of the scene, obviously you had an apoplexian skeleton. I'm pretty sure Kyber even directly points out that he has that in the background. But he also he doesn't. I don't think he mentions this, but in the background you can see the skull of an ultimate humongousaur in the background, because you have the skull and then you have the black head thing that ultimate humongousaur would wear or would be wearing.
Yeah.
And that just makes me think, so did Kyber hunt and kill the ultimate humongousaur that split off from the Ultimatrix?
That's a good question, because my understanding
that was the only living ultimate humongousaur in the universe.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. The ultimate creatures were like omnitrix extrapolations of the future evolution of these genetic characters. So yeah, they're the only ones in the universe.
Yeah, so I suppose the only conclusion we can come to from that is that Kyber was able to successfully hunt and kill Ultimate Humongousaur.
That's kind of grim.
Yeah, and they didn't, and the show itself didn't even like directly call attention to that. That's just like a background thing. They didn't even mention it. It's more of a case of if you spotted the skull and the Ultimate Humongousaur head thing um, in the background. It's kind of a case of if you didn't know that was there, then you wouldn't even know about that.
Yeah, and in this modern age of computers and internets and stuff, I'm sure there's got to be communication groups out there talking about it. Somebody noticed it, others picked up on it, and so forth.
And the creators of the show itself possibly doing that intentionally to like maybe not to maybe to get people guessing or maybe to imply other storylines that might have happened.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, because I'm sure there are multiple other shows that do the same thing where they like where the creators themselves put things in the background specifically to or specifically for like the kinds of people who like obsessively go through shots and pick out like things and like try and figure out why it's there and that sort of thing.
Yeah, all the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
We did that when Lost was first aired. The first season, we were going through, going, okay, what does this mean, and what's this, and wait, did you see that in the background? Da, da, da. And then we're like, okay, there's really no point to it.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean anything. It's just there to lead us on wild goose chases.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the Ultimate Humongous skull in the background, because I suppose it would make Kaiba come off as more threatening as a villain and more, I suppose, more competent as a hunter, maybe.
True, true,
Because Ultimate Humongous like that was a very powerful transformation.
true.
So it kind of stands to reason that the individual
It also
being that
makes
split
sense
off would be
because
also as powerful.
if he's been following Ben for so long, I could totally see him going after, the offshoot ultimate aliens, because that's a related thing.
Yeah. I suppose it would be similar to hunting a regular Humongousaur,
Right,
except the ultimate version will be more powerful than a regular Humongousaur.
right.
Yeah, maybe it was for bragging rights, is that I can beat the ultimate version of an alien you can turn into.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like we were watching another YouTuber play this game. I think it's called Subnautica, or maybe it's just called
yeah.
Nautica.
Subnautica.
And
Yes,
there's a
Subnautica.
yeah, and there's this big leviathan that she was always terrified of. And then we watched somebody else doing it, and this other person just went after it and just started beating the snot out of it until
Yeah.
he beat it to death.
Got into the prawn suit and literally hunted the thing down and,
Beat the snot
latched
out of it.
onto it and beat the crap out of it till he killed it.
Wait, when you say Leviathan, do you mean the big like Reaper Leviathan with the
Reaper
Yeah.
Leviathan.
four
Yeah.
pincers at the front?
Yep.
Well, the red and white, I think it's
And that's what
called.
he would do. He would get the thing to grab him, like face on, and then just pummel him in the face. And then if he took too much damage, he'd get out, he'd repair the prawn suit. In fact, at one point, the Reaper Leviathan was attacking him when he got out of the prawn suit, which was a bit harrowing. But yeah, he ends up beating the thing to death.
I know
I'm not gonna let you
there
spoil my
are
game. I'm gonna just get you out of the way so I can, go
Yeah.
do what I need to do. And
Yeah.
that's what he did.
yeah, I know there are like bigger Leviathan variants like deeper underground and deeper in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a Ghost Leviathan, I think, what is one of the
Ghost
variants?
Leviathans are,
It's like
are
much bigger.
very similar, but they're translucent and they glow, and they're actually
Yeah.
pretty cool looking.
Okay, so we are now done with season 1 of Omniverse.
Yeah. So if I'm going to continue on and we're going to do it in any kind of order, I'm going to need your help figuring out what order we're going to be watching these in.
Okay. Are you still able to access the link that I shared on the with like the last stream?
If I am, I don't know what I did with it, so I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Did you like save it
I
or
don't
save it
think
like
so.
somewhere or something
If I
or
did, I've forgotten where.
yeah. Okay. Okay. How about if I share the link a second time?
Sure. And then I'll save it. Thanks, Melissa Harris.
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice to have you here. Now let's. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, the obviously that was my fault with the getting us to watch the wrong order for the first
Mm-hmm.
season. That was on me. The Yeah, so like I said before, the actual order for the episodes of the seasons is the season 1 is the US airing order because the episodes are like there are a few minor points throughout the episodes of season 1 where there are some chronological callbacks to other events in the episodes of the same season, and yeah, so the US airing order for season 1 is the correct order, but season 2 onwards, the US airing order for season 2 onwards is inaccurate because that's when they started mixing a whole bunch of episodes in all random order. So it's so from season 2 onwards is the production order is the correct one.
Okay, so well, actually, if that's the case, 12, 30, 40. So it looks like it's mostly in. Oh no, I take that back. It's in order up through December. The airing was correct up through like the 15th episode, and then the two in January come before the one in March, then the February episode, and then actually it was the two final episodes were shown in February.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I see. So if we go by production order.
Yeah, for the rest of the show go production order.
Okay, then that's
There's a
the
link on the I think that was on the YouTube. Yeah, okay, that link's on the YouTube comments.
yep, and the on the wiki, the what's it called? The fandom wiki.
Yeah.
It does have it listed in production order. So if I follow that order, I should be okay.
Yeah, it has production order as like the default way that it's showing the way it's listing the episodes in production order by default.
Oh, getting a few spoilers here too. I see that Kevin and Gwen come back in the first episode. Oh, Julie
Yep.
comes back later on in the season. In that season.
Yeah, it's like, where's Julie been all this time? Was she away at
We'll
tennis
find out.
camp?
We'll find out in the 18th episode of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't know if I think the episode does actually explain where she's been.
Well, I think the last time we saw her, she was going off to like tennis camp or tennis tournaments or something.
And she's been gone for over a year.
or
Oh, and
however
and
long the.
there's Grandpa Max in the second episode. So okay, all right. Maybe this season will be a little bit better then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, season one definitely wasn't like horrendously bad.
Yeah, but I was just disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, let's end this now.
Okay.
So let yeah. So let the Matrix light your darkest hour till all are one. Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.